Another case designed the same way. There's a set of cases we did for original documents of Charles Darwin. But again, the vitrine is a box and it sits on a plane, and it has the gasket is entirely on one plane, and it just stills right up. And there's an anatomical view of that case. So once you've built an airtight case that can maintain a constant humidity, you've created another problem. The same case that keeps the proper humidity in the case also keeps all the pollutants given off by the case itself and all the exhibit materials inside the case. Not to mention, of course, any pollutants that your object itself is giving off, but that's not a problem for the case fabricator. This makes it extremely important that you choose your materials carefully. Although there's no substitute for individual testing of these materials, using whatever protocols you choose or your institution chooses, there are some basic guidelines you should use. Materials that are generally considered safe to use are acrylic, of course, including Optium, glass, aluminum, stainless steel, bronze, polyethylene sheets, including high-density polyethylene slabs used as decks, powder coats, fluted polypropylene, D-bond, alpolic, alucobond, all of which are basic variations on the same theme. There are also some materials to generally avoid. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but it includes things that people are likely to be tempted to use in a case. I've certainly seen all of these things used in materials, in cases. Wood panels and lumber in general, with the qualified exception of poplar. Oil-based paints and other coatings, non-archival papers, acetoxy-curing silicones, and flexible vinyls. Materials to be used carefully after testing include all kinds of fabrics. Lots of fabrics that you would think are okay turn out not to be. Linens and polyesters are a good place to start. Generally, most of the cotton fabrics that I've seen people test have failed. Neutral curing silicones in general are good. Latex paints are often good. Rigid PVC boards like Sintra and Comatex are gaining pretty good acceptance in the conservation community. And poplar lumber, when properly sealed. Waterborne two-part epoxy coatings and silicone gaskets. Now, keeping in mind that all of these things really should be tested, but these are good materials to start with. I mean, there's no sense in testing a material that you know is going to be lousy. We do a lot of testing with AD strips. I don't know, is everybody familiar with AD strips? Anybody not familiar with AD strips? Okay, AD strips it's an acid determining strip. They're made by the Image Permanence Institute. They were originally designed to test for vinegar syndrome in photographic films, but they're quite sensitive to acids, and if you take a specimen, put it in a little poly bag with an AD strip, which starts out bright blue, if it stays bright blue, you're probably, if you want to go on to ODI testing, you should do that, but it's a good place to start. If it turns green, you've got trouble. Now, for example, here's an oak specimen of oak lumber in a little Ziploc bag. And you see the strip is bright blue. Here's the same specimen after 2 weeks. In fact, you could begin to see a color change after about 2 hours. So some examples of the things that can happen to objects when the case materials are not well chosen are these. Many of these were not even in sealed cases, but you would have seen even greater damage if they had been. You don't want this happening to your object. Lead is particularly susceptible to organic acids. And it's surprising how many things actually have lead in them. So, on that sobering note, I'm happy to take questions on any subject. I guess the fact that once you really figured out how to do it, it became pretty easy. That was, I mean, it was quite difficult for quite a while until we really figured out the best things to do, and now it looks like it's pretty easy. Well, a lot of people use, I mean, the simplest thing that's readily available is ArtSorb sheet, which of course is not entirely silica gel, but we make a panel like this, which is 1/4 of an inch thick. And if you've got enough room I can't make it any thinner than that, but if you have room for 1/4 of an inch, we can pack a lot of silica gel into the back of a picture frame. But ArtSorb sheets are, work pretty well. Jed, do you have anything to suggest on that? Again, but you're still talking about nearly, well, it's 1/8 of an inch thick to 1/4 of an inch thick. Yep. So rapid gel would be the other thing. I'd ask you when you needed it. I'd ask you when you needed it. We can, well, you can see here on the table what we've accomplished with Optium, so, and without Optium. But yes, understanding that perfection is something that only ever happens by accident, we can give you a pretty good looking vitrine. Acrylic pressure sensitives tend to be generally accepted. We use we use a handful of different sources for recommendations on that. We do ADI testing in-house, but we don't rely on it. We have things tested by MFA Boston, by National Archives, and institutions that we work for will often give us recommendations. I mean, for example, the Metropolitan will tell us what they want us to use. The most common thing that we use is 3M465 adhesive transfer, which was first recommended to us by National Archives. We do have clients now that are perfectly happy with 3M Super 77. So, for gaskets, we manufacture. We have gaskets manufactured to our specs, which are silicone foam, which have again an acrylic pressure sensitive on the back side. Anything else? Over to Patty.